Atomic Habits Chapter 2. What you do determines the type of person you become. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. So, if you want to change your habits, you have to change the underlying beliefs that caused your previous habits. So you can change your habits by changing your identity. But also it's a two-way loop, so you can change your identity by changing your habits. Your identity, your habits are a reflection of your identity. And your identity isn't set in stone. So don't get too attached with one part of your identity, that you become stagnant to try new things. So, for example, if you're too attached with the fact that, let's say you're a CEO of some company, and you center your whole identity over your company, over the fact that you're the CEO of that company. What happens when you sell that company? If you've centered your whole identity around the fact that you're the CEO of that company, when that company finally uh, grows enough so that it can be sold, and when you sell it, then then part of your identity is gone, meaning you can lose yourself. So don't get too attached with one part of an identity, because the more deeply attached an action is, the harder it is to change it. You can change your identity by building habits. Stories that you tell yourself that you believe are true, or when you have repeated a story to yourself over and over again for years, then you slide into those mental grooves and may accept them as a fact. For example, if you've always said that I'm not a morning person, or I'm not good at remembering names, or whatever, then you slip into those grooves that make you accept it as a fact while it's not true. You can be good at remembering names if you just try to. The more deeply a thought or action is tied to your identity, then the more harder it is to change it. But if you change your underlying beliefs that cause that behavior, that causes you to say, I'm not good at remembering names, if you change your identity, then changing your actions become easy. So there are three layers of behavior change. The first one is a change in outcome. Changing outcome is what you get. The second one is a change in processes. The change in processes is what you do. And the third one is a change in identity, is what you believe in. True behavior change is identity change. Behaviors that are incongruent into with the self will never last. Meaning it's hard to change the behaviors if you never change the underlying beliefs that caused that behavior in the past. So, for example, there's a huge difference when someone when is offered a smoke and says, I'm trying to quit smoking, to when another person says, I'm not a smoker. The first one still believes that they're a smoker. The second one changed their identity, meaning smoking is not part of their life. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's another thing to say, I'm the type of person who is this. So habits are about becoming the type of person you want to be. So have good habits that lead you to your desired outcome, to who you want to be. Because each action you take is a vote for the type of person you're going to become. Habits are the path to changing your identity, and changing your identity is the path to changing your habits. It's a two-way loop. Chapter 3. So, the habit loop is a process by which habits take place or are formed. It consists of four things. The first one is the cue, second one is the craving, the third one is the response, and the fourth one is the reward. So the cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The third response is about obtaining the reward or the actual habit you perform. And the reward is the reward itself, the end goal. The cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward and satisfies the craving, and ultimately becomes associated with the cue. So, for example, if you sit on your sofa and you see your remote just lying there, that cue, the remote, will trigger a craving for entertainment or pleasure, which makes you act on it, which makes you turn on the TV, which is the response. And from turning on the TV, you get the reward, which is entertainment. So every time, and this becomes associated with the cue, the remote. Every time you see the remote, this will trigger you to activate a response which ons the TV. The cue becomes associated with the reward. Eliminate the cue, and the habit will never start. Reduce the craving, and you won't experience enough motivation to act. Make the behavior difficult, and you won't be able to do it. And if the reward fails to satisfy you or your desire, you will have no reason to do it again in the future. Without the first three steps, the habit won't occur. Without all four, it won't be repeated. So, to create a good habit, you have to make the cue obvious, you have to make the craving attractive, you have to make the response easy, and you have to make the reward satisfying. And to break a bad habit, you have to make the cue invisible, you have to make the craving unattractive, you have to make the response difficult, and you have to make the reward unsatisfying. Yeah, that's it for today.